Welcome, everyone, to today's webinar, Long-Term Benefits and Value of an RPO Partnership, Moving Your Talent Acquisition Program from Stabilization to Optimization. On behalf of Hueman and Becca's Healthcare, thank you for joining us. Before we begin, I'm going to walk you through a few housekeeping instructions. We will begin today's webinar with a presentation, and we'll have time for a question and answer session at the end. You can submit your questions throughout the webinar by typing them into the QA box you see on your screen. Today's session is being recorded and will be available after the event. You can use the same link you used to log into today's webinar to access that recording. We will have a series of poll questions during the webinar. You can submit the answers that best apply to you directly on your screen in the slides box. Thanks in advance for your participation. And if at any time you don't see the slides moving, you're having audio troubles, or anything else like that, try refreshing your browser. But if that doesn't work, feel free to send us a question in the QA box. We're here to help. I'm so happy to present our two speakers today. Derek Carpenter, Executive Vice President of Strategic Partnerships from Hueman RPO, and Michael Tadelbain, Vice President of Talent Management from Becca's Health. Derek and Michael, thank you so much for being here today. I'll turn the floor over to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us today. We are having a little bit of technical difficulties. So unfortunately, Michael right now is not on camera. So you all are stuck with me. So apologies, but his audio is loud and clear and we'll be able to engage in a really great dialogue. I want to just thank you for taking the time to spend an hour with us today. We know how crazy schedules can get. If your calendar is anything like mine, finding an hour somewhere is not easy, and we're honored that you're spending it with us. As mentioned, we're going to talk about the long-term benefits and value of an RPO partnership, and really moving your talent acquisition function from stabilization to optimization. So we'll talk about really what that means to us, what that could mean to you, and more importantly, what that means to Baptist Health. So Michael is representing Baptist, our honored guest today, and we're really excited about it. So we had a lot of fun putting this program together for you all. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you get a bunch out of it. And the last thing that I'll say is don't be shy with your questions. And we really want to hear from you and dig in any area that you guys have some questions about. So let's go through some brief introductions. Michael, you want to go first?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Derek, good to see you. As Derek said, I'm Michael Tadelbain. I'm with Baptist Health here in Jacksonville, Florida. We serve the Northeast Florida community. We have about 15,000 team members. And one of the things I love about Baptist really is our culture, and that we're locally governed, not-for-profit, and really living our mission and ensuring that our values come to life each and every day in terms of how our team members interact with one another, and of course, care for our patients and families.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. And group, my name is Derek Carpenter. I'm the Executive Vice President of Strategic Partnerships here at Hueman RPO. And really all that means is just a fancy title for solutionizer. So my role with the organization is to understand where groups have gaps, challenges, opportunities within their talent acquisition function, and where some of our solutions line up to address those challenges. Been with the organization for about 14 years. It's actually 14 years on November 2nd. So just click that. Michael, I know that you told a little bit about Baptist. Anything else that you want to highlight or mention for the healthcare system?
Definitely. Well, for the group, just to tell you a little bit, especially for the HR folks on the line, to tell you a little bit about structure and my role as VP of Talent Management. Of course, that includes recruitment and the onboarding of our team members. By the way, we hire about 500 team members every month. My responsibilities, though, are also focused around employee and leadership development, organizational development, all of our culture, engagement, and in particular, culture of belonging work falls under my umbrella. And just maybe lastly about Baptist is, we continue to really focus in on that team member experience. And I think we're nicely being recognized by a number of awards, just one this year. And what I love about those three awards is they are awards we have applied for. They've simply been awards we've been recognized for. And that's always really exciting, as I think we all know we work so hard to drive exceptional team member experiences. And so it has kept us motivated to receive these awards and see appreciation for our dedication to our team members.
That's right. Excellent. Yeah, we don't go through this just to get a piece of hardware or an award, right?
Right.
That's just the payoff and the validation around it.
Exactly.
Great. Excellent. Well, group, I'll tell you a little bit about Hueman and our organization. So Hueman, at our core, we're a recruitment process outsourcing organization. And what that means is that we dedicate recruiter resources to represent the brand and banner of our partner organizations. So we support them with all kinds of resources from technology to marketing. We'll look at processes, we'll look at reporting. And at the end of the day, TA is all we do. It's all we think about. So as you're thinking about internal recruiting processes versus external or outsource, TA is all we do. It's all we think about. And that focused effort really helps us to move the needle. We've been around for a long time. So we've been around since 1996. We've seen and done it all. We've been a contingent recruiting organization. We've been a travel nurse organization. We've really found a home since 2009 in value-added partnerships through RPO. What makes us most proud, though, as Michael alluded to, it's not about the awards, but our culture is really what we hang our hat on, and our culture has been validated by some outside groups. So all of those HR folks in the audience today might be familiar with the Gallup Q12 engagement survey. So we take this survey every 2 years, and in 16, the first time we took it, Gallup called us and told us that we had scored in the top 99th percentile of all respondents worldwide. So they named us one of the most engaged workforces in the world, regardless of industry or size. And we've gotten that award in 16, 18, 20, 22, and hoping again in 24. But at the end of the day, we are dedicating recruiter resources to represent the brand and banner of our partners, whether it's Baptist or another organization. It's really important that our recruiters are passionate, they're engaged, they're bringing their best every single day. So where is your organization today? So as you look at these two stop signs, I guess, stabilization and optimization, if you were going to look up the definition of stabilization, it really means to make stable, steadfast, or firm. If you look up optimization, it's to make as fully perfect, functional, or effective as possible. When I really start to think about these, I think about stabilized being steady and predictable, and optimized being that never-ending pursuit of perfection. So it's kind of that evolution, that arrow that is going off to the right, and we're working on systems, processes. And when we are optimized, it allows us to do different things. We can enhance our TA platform. We can explore other ways to add value and focus on other areas outside of talent acquisition. So, Michael, I'll ask you a question. As you think about Baptist's TA function on this continuum, where do you think you fall today?
Yeah, first, Derek, I love what you said that when I think about optimization, beyond that formal definition on the slide, it is that never-ending pursuit of perfection. Or what I talk about is, look, recruitment is a continuous improvement journey. It just never ends. But what I'm so proud of our partnership and where we are today as we move into optimization. If I was going to place a dot, it would be close to the middle of that slide or spectrum. And because now we're at a place where we're able to really focus on refining and continuing to improve that candidate experience, right? We're no longer in the weeds with refining the process or even defining the process when I think back to the beginning of that relationship with Hueman. And so today, when I think about optimization, kind of right in the middle in terms of we're focusing on improving the onboarding experience, we're optimizing the candidate experience. We're able to now take a step back and really think about our brand and our commitment to what does it mean to come work at Baptist, that don't come work for us simply because we have an open position, but we've able to, because we're in this optimization mode, able to really now think about what's our messaging, what's our commitment to candidates, which we could never have done or do if we were in that stabilization phase.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love that. It really sounds like instead of kind of being reactive, now you're driving strategy, right? And you're more forward looking.
And much more aligned with the business, right? Now, talk about optimization, we we have the time and the capacity to sit down with our operational leaders and really think beyond today's need and truly optimize and project the workforce needs throughout the year, couple of years. Where again, when we were in that stabilization mode, we were just so glad we were able to post the position after receiving the request.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. All right, we'll move on. And just I saw another question just pop up there, and just to rehash. So Michael's having some camera issues, so you all are stuck with me today. So it's not something on your end. It's something on our end. So apologies for that. So on this slide here, there's a study by Lighthouse Research, and Lighthouse surveyed 519 talent acquisition decision makers across a variety of different industries. And how they describe it is just about every industry is actually represented within this survey. So I know a lot of people are probably healthcare focused. You know, this is not. This is more holistic, and we're gonna test that healthcare focus in just a moment. But really, these are the top priorities for next year that TA groups are focused on. So recruiting automation, onboarding, recruitment marketing, candidate experience, hiring manager relationships, which is very important, and diversity and inclusion. So, Michael, I'll ask you: do these priorities resonate with you? And is there anything omitted that's kind of at the top of your priority list?
You know, Derek, when I first saw this list, what hit me was if I hadn't seen the list and you said to me, what are your priorities for 2024? It would look pretty similar. I think what's missing for me that's incredibly important is the data and reporting piece. And so if I could add one more, I love all of these, but I would add in addition data and reporting.
What gets measured gets done, right?
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, we have to validate strategy through data. And we're gone are the days of gut feel. And we need to make sure that the data is telling us that we're on the right track. Wonderful. Well, now, audience members, it's time for you to participate. So, what we would like you to do is, based on the priorities that you just saw on the last screen, what are the important priorities for your organization as you move into 2024? So, check all that apply. We'll give you 40 seconds or so to respond, and hopefully get some good information and good data out of that. And Michael, while we're waiting on that, as I start to look at this list here, some of these fall into that stabilization bucket, some fall into the optimized bucket, but a lot of them could really be both, right? And I think about, recruiting automation, that's probably an evolution. That's probably getting to that next stage. Which ones do you think would be kind of in that evolutionary stage and that optimized stage?
Yeah, look, I think all of them, like you said, could maybe start with stabilization if it's just getting it up and running, right? Doing the bare minimum. So take onboarding, right? So from stabilization perspective, it's simply getting the right documents from that new hire and getting them in the HRS system. Not very exciting, versus moving to optimization, right, where it is all about the onboarding experience and continuing to refine that onboarding experience. So it's not just about service and culture, but it is also about the process itself and continuing to refine and simplify and make it seamless. So, like I said, and I think you started to say, all of these could fall in both, we'll call buckets. And of course, it's more fun to work on the optimization, right? To really move
Right.
towards maybe not perfection, but really, there's such a difference, right? Between an okay onboarding experience and an awesome onboarding experience.
Sure. All right. Well, let's see if everybody agrees with you. So, based on these results, it looks like recruiting automation is a top priority for this group. It looks like, let's see, onboarding is another one as well. So, Michael, respond to that. So, from a recruiting automation standpoint, if we think that's part of that optimized environment, is that something that you're looking at and focused on rolling into 2024?
We sure are. And it's funny. Over my HR career, I've worked on a number of applicant tracking systems and HRIS systems, and everywhere I've worked, everyone has complained about the system we've had. And I think the opportunity is it's having the right resources to fully utilize the systems we have. Look, I think, and I'm not here to endorse one or the other, but I think there are some better than others, and I bet that would be an interesting poll, maybe for another day. But recruiting automation, look, we're all trying to meet the needs of our stakeholders and fill positions and create exceptional candidate experiences. And any opportunity to automate is definitely going to not just solve an opportunity in terms of if it's automating the texting, right, abilities, but then it frees up that recruiter to do other things or have more time with the interaction with candidates. So when I think about recruiting automation, it's not just to be more efficient. I see it as an opportunity to have more capacity for recruiters to do other things that moves us to that optimization state.
I love that, Michael. And as I think about that, and as I layer in the lens of technology, I always think about taking administrative burden off of recruiters so they can focus on what recruiters do best, and that's building relationships with candidates, hiring managers. It is a human resource at the end of the day, and let's make sure that we keep the human in it, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, hopefully that was interesting for everybody. So, everybody in the audience, how many times have we seen a slide like this? All we see are the supply and demand graphs that are completely inverted. So this is actually some BLS data, and it's been taken over the last 4 years across all healthcare labor. And it really is saying that the demand for healthcare folks is up 50%, while the hires are only up 20%. So we've all read this book before. We all understand that. The interesting thing, I think, is that when we typically see these graphs, most of the time we're talking about the nursing shortage, or we're talking about the supply and demand characteristics for registered nurses and how inverted they are. Michael, we discussed offline, you've gotten your nurse recruiting stabilized. So you're the employer of choice in Jacksonville. So not employer of choice, the employer of choice. There's a lot of other household brands that are here, major healthcare systems that most everybody would know about. And they're in our own backyard. So I have two questions for you around this. So the first one, with nurse recruiting stabilized, what are the other roles that you're focusing on, and what are the other needs that start to bubble up that you're now able to redirect and start to make some headway on?
Yeah, it is. Well, first, it is interesting, and it didn't just happen by chance. We're really proud that, although we'll always have a need, of course, to hire nurses, we're in just such a better spot than we ever have been, in terms of pipelines and shifting our mindset with our nurse leadership and creating support systems to be able to hire more nurse grads than we ever had before, and really understanding, from our nursing leadership colleagues what they need to provide exceptional patient care, to skill up that nursing grad and integrate them into the care team, and to ensure that our high quality care continues. And so we've worked really hard at finding unique pipelines for our nurses, but we've also worked really hard to look internally about what do we need to do differently, as we're bringing on maybe a different nurse candidate profile, than we have had in the past. So just to put that out there. But I bet this isn't unique to the folks on the line, where we see real opportunity, because there's little candidate pipeline, having a lot to do with the schools in the area, either not having the programs or having very few enrollees in their programs, are around those specialty radiology positions like MRI techs, CT techs. We also really are focused on improving our relationships and building our pipelines with those schools beyond Jacksonville, around surgical techs and cardiovascular techs in particular. And what's so fascinating is I'm out talking to high school students and attending other community outreach programs where we're asked to have a presence, really sharing and talking to folks who aren't college age ready, and especially those thinking college isn't for me, and helping them understand these career opportunities that doesn't require a 4-year degree and really can give them a career path.
That's great. And you mentioned some of the tech roles. I'm sure that a lot of folks that are listening today can resonate with those roles, and some of those lab positions and IT and finance, and knowing that our RN recruiting is stabilized, probably helps with some of those. And interesting to just hear you describe that stabilization, right? And it's not just brute force of talent acquisition that makes that happen. It's really a holistic, encompassing plan, which activates the entire business to execute on. But TA really needs to be in order to make that happen.
Right. So, right, it takes a village, right? I think TA, we have to step up to the plate and take the lead, but we can't do it alone, right? What we've done to stabilize and now optimize our hiring efforts around nursing didn't just happen because of our recruitment team and our Hueman partnership. We were part of that, but boy, it takes a collaborative approach with all those key stakeholders.
Sure. Awesome. All right. So we've been focused on recruiting thus far, because we do have a recruiting partnership, long-standing. But HR is so many other things. So these are some of the things that have bubbled up as different areas that are keeping HR leaders up at night. So I'll ask you, Michael, as an HR leader, what are the key things that are keeping you up at night or top of mind right now for Baptist?
Yeah, what's really top of mind for me right now is fulfilling our brand promise at the time of recruitment. That's a big deal for me. So we see Baptist, like you said, as the employer of choice, but so does the community. And we talk a lot about why we're different than some of our competitors in this market. We are not for profit. We are locally governed. We're not part of a large system. We don't have leaders in another state making decisions about how we provide care and how our operations support that care. And so, and that really resonates with our candidates, but we also talk to our candidates about our strong culture. And so, what really has me excited and focused right now that we've optimized recruitment is around engagement and that team member experience. We're really proud of our engagement scores, but we're proud of the work that has resulted in those high engagement scores. Every day, we continue to focus on improving the team member experience, and it's not a separate activity. We talk to our leaders about integrating that thinking and the work itself into their daily efforts. And so skilling up our frontline leaders, making them the very best, and hiring the right leaders who have the heart to really care for our team members is some of the areas that I'm extremely focused on right now.
That's great. That's great. And I noticed that you didn't say trying to find more nurses or some of those basic blocking and tackling aspects of talent acquisition. And that's really, as we start to think about what stabilization versus optimization really starts to look like. And we're going to go through some different ways to do this, but at the end of the day, it frees leaders up to be more strategic and press the organization forward in different areas. So as we start to think about a best-in-class talent acquisition function, we at Hueman, we call it the Hueman way, but this isn't unique to us. I think that at the end of the day, if you can be top 90th percentile in all 5 of these buckets, you're going to have a best-in-class talent acquisition function. So I'll use an analogy. I'm a big motorsports fan. And if you have the best race car, the best engine, the best driver, the best team, the best strategy, you still have to put that car out on a track, and you have to beat other people that are also trying to win that race. And you have to contend with all the other variables that come along. And I think about TA in the same way. If we're not best in class in all of these areas, it's going to be really hard for us to win the race. So I'll unpack these really quickly, but ultimately it starts with people. So folks out there, as you're thinking about your TA function, having passionate and engaged recruiters is so important. And we always say that a recruiter is the only salesperson in HR, and they should have that sales mindset. But at the same time, they should have the right core values that evoke empathy and customer service focus. So it's a unique skill set to bring together. And then we want to make sure that we're professionally managing them. And what that really means to us is, are they engaged in collaborative goal setting? Are we looking at KPIs, and are we holding folks accountable to those key performance indicators? Are we helping to remove barriers? The next thing is process. So if you haven't recently, I would encourage you to workflow out your process. And if it takes somebody more than 5 minutes to apply to your jobs, you should probably see if you can get it down, because you're losing folks. And we want to make sure that where candidates are getting through as quickly as they can. We live in this fast food world. So workflow it out, break down some barriers, and make sure that you keep the focus on the candidate experience as well as the hiring manager experience. From a technology perspective, we saw that recruiting automation was an important thing. We think ultimately we want to make sure that we're starting with a great foundation, which is your applicant tracking system. We think that this is your system of truth. This is your system of record, and it needs to be optimized. It needs to be a system that is intuitive, user friendly, that can really help support the business. And then we start to look at other tools and resources. There's some wonderful technologies out there that can be bolted on and help with administrative burden, or really starting to take over some of the functions from a recruiter, so they can focus on building those relationships, as we talked about before. The fourth thing, and I'm almost done on my soapbox, is digital recruitment marketing. So this is probably one of the most important on this slide here. And ultimately, we want to make sure that we're casting a really wide net. So do we have the right proliferation strategy, or is it post and pray? And post and pray is hoping, and hope isn't a strategy. So highly encourage you to have that proliferation advertising strategy. And then as we're doing that, do we have an employee value proposition? And have you visited that recently? And are we weaving that into those campaigns and those job postings? Ultimately, our digital footprint is telling a story about us, whether we like it or not. It is. And let's make sure it's telling the right story. And let's make sure we're guiding that story ultimately. And then the last thing is reporting. So, Michael, you already mentioned it. It's data and analysis. And we need to make sure that the data is validating the strategy at the end of the day, and that we are looking at what the data is telling us and being brave enough to tap or change strategy if it's not validated. And I would say, if you have systems that are not able to produce robust reporting to help look at that data and validate that strategy, really focus on tightening that up. And whether it's optimizing your applicant tracking system, whether it's looking at other third-party groups. There's some wonderful platforms out there as well. But really do that and make that a focus. So if you do all those things, you're good. You're best in class. So what we'd like to do is ask the audience again, and would love for you all to participate. So if we look forward to 2024, which one of these areas that we just talked about would you most like to improve in your organization from a talent acquisition standpoint? So we'll give everybody a minute or so to respond to this. And while we're doing that, Michael, I'm going to ask you a question. What area has Hueman been able to make the biggest impact for Baptist in terms of driving towards optimization, if you look at these five?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting taking a fresh look at this list and thinking about optimization, and another way to think about where are we at. If I was gonna take these five areas and think about your optimization, we'll call stop sign, right? I might place these a little bit differently, right? Inside that stop sign, in terms of where we're furthest and where we still have the greatest opportunity. And so what our partnership has really helped us optimize, for one, is the people piece. I mean, we now have, right, dedicated recruiters, thanks to our partnership, who understand the Baptist culture. You all have an amazing culture, and our cultures are so aligned, our values are so aligned. And so that's one piece, just the experience recruiters have every day when they start their workday. Their team member experience is very positive, thanks to our culture. That didn't just happen. That took time for us even to hire the right people together and create this exceptional culture. We've gotten really good thanks to our partnership in terms of efficiency and consistent processes, and now creating those exceptional team member experiences. And on the reverse, just to be really transparent, the one theme that I think we're good, but we need to continue, and we are continuing to work at on this journey, is the digital recruitment marketing piece, and that's a big focus of ours, and our partnership for calendar year 24.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, let's see what your peers have said. So it looks like process is a big one as well, and reporting and reporting. Yeah. So I think about process, and as we kind of talked about, and going through that candidate journey map and really understanding all those touch points, and how they're actually matriculating through can be very illuminating. So folks that are looking to optimize your process, draw it out on a piece of paper or a whiteboard first, and then see where there's areas that you can eliminate barriers, and break down some of those decision points to move candidates through a bit more quickly.
And I think in addition, Derek, it's of course you got to map your own process and find those opportunities to eliminate redundancies and potentially remove tasks within that process. But you also have to get candidate feedback, right? What's the experience like for you? And when you look at these processes from both lenses, that's when you really move to optimization.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So this is busy. There's a lot going on. We're going to go through every single one of these lines. We're not. We're not. But in the group, as we start to think about ways to become a best-in-class talent acquisition organization, there's a lot of different ways to get there. And you could look at, buying it. You can look at building it, and you can look at a combination of both. Obviously, we have a bias towards one of these solutions that we think works pretty well in recruitment process outsourcing. But you could build it with an internal team. You could look at in contingent recruiters, contract recruiters. There's temporary staffing that certainly has a place within an overall staffing matrix. We could look at technology partners or enterprise level RPO, integrated RPO. So kind of outsourcing everything, or maybe outsourcing part of it just to get a little bit of those resources and to help that internal team. So Michael, I have a question for you. So why is RPO the right solution for Baptist? It's been the right solution for 13 years throughout our partnership. Why is it still and continue to be the partnership or the solution for Baptist?
I think there's, for me, two primary reasons. The overarching is talent acquisition. That's all you do, right? It's all you do. It's your focus every day. And but from a practical standpoint, why does it work for us? Boy, I think we talk about this. Health. I can't think of an industry more ever changing than healthcare, and I think we'd all would agree that. And when healthcare is ever changing, staffing needs are ever changing. And the beauty of our partnership is you're able to scale up quickly when we have an overnight need, or sadly something we didn't forecast correctly. And on the reverse, you can scale down for us quickly. You have done that for us by shifting recruiters to other accounts, pulling recruiters to us when we have a special need, and it's seamless. It happens with a conversation or two and some thoughtful thinking, and that has been really incredible to support the needs of our business. And the other piece I would say is that you bring knowledge that we just simply don't have. You're recruiting for other healthcare organizations and other non-healthcare organizations. And we've learned there's so much to learn from not just healthcare clients of yours, but even your non-healthcare clients. So I think it has allowed us to do some out of the box thinking with our partnership that we just simply wouldn't have known or thought about without the relationship we have.
Really appreciate those sentiments, and we talk about that a lot. And whether it's the next COVID, geopolitical, macroeconomic thing that comes down the pike, I would encourage all the audience members to start to think about, when the next curveball comes, and it's a when rather than an if. You know, do you have that inherent flexibility built into your team to, flex up, to flex down, and really to pulse and to roll with some of those different events that start to occur. And the other thing that I'll say, and I appreciate your thoughts, Michael. Ultimately, we every day we're out there in the trenches, and we're learning something every day. And our partnerships benefit collectively because it's a collective body of work and body of knowledge. So we skin our knees all over the place, but we bring that all together. And when we learn something new in one partnership on the West Coast, we're going to bring that to bear in Jacksonville just the same. So it's a continued evolution and building process.
Yeah, totally agree.
So, Michael, some groups out there might be in the RPO vetting phase. They might be looking at some organizations that could provide recruitment process outsourcing services. What counsel would you give to them or provide to them as they're going through that and they're looking to bring a partner on? What should they be thinking about?
Yeah, I think overall it's probably no different than as HR folks, we think about our insurance brokers and we think about other consulting organizations. If it's a comp redesign project we're taking on or another initiative, selecting the right RPO partner, my advice is one, I would find an RPO that's truly aligned to your organization's values and culture because it's their folks who are going to be talking to your candidates and you don't want scripts. You don't want recruiters who are working in a culture completely different than yours, reading a script, trying to describe the client's culture, in this case, Baptist culture. And so for me, it's really important and I think has a lot to do with our success that our values and culture to team member experiences is so aligned. So that's one. I also think that an RPO that has a one size fits all approach is the wrong RPO. Finding an RPO that can adjust to your needs, create a model that meets your needs, is flexible, can quickly scale up and scale down, as we earlier talked about, is incredibly important. And, I think ultimately, I want an RPO that truly feels like an extension of my HR team. And that for me is, if I could think about my RPO and describe it that they feel like one of us, then I know I've selected the RPO correctly.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I have a follow up to that, Michael. So, as you start to think about the partnership at large, how do you define success? What means success at the end of the day?
Oh goodness, I think we all could chuckle about recruitment success. And yesterday we celebrate, and today's another day, right? And so, from an objective way to measure our success, as looking at those traditional statistics, of course, are important. Time to fill and sourcing ratios and measuring the candidate experience, all really important. Measuring hiring manager satisfaction, incredibly important. And that, I think, is what is also so imperative when we talk about what success It can't be Michael saying, "Oh, our human partnership's fantastic. We've optimized processes. Our brand promise to our candidates is clear." But how do our hiring managers feel? How is it to work with us? And us meaning HR leadership like me and my recruitment director and your specific recruiters, like what's that like? Do we make it easy for you or do we make it difficult? And so I think it's really important when we talk about measuring success, again, like onboarding, we have to have the customer internal stakeholder lens to assess how are we doing.
Sure, sure. And at the end of the day, it's setting the right goals and benchmarks for the
Sure.
near and the distant term, and then how do we reverse engineer into that and say, how are we going to do that? How are we going to get there? And you mentioned some of those table stakes, the time to fill, the percentage against ratios, the basic metrics, and then really starting to look at, okay, what's the business impact? And there could be a group out there that says, well, I have a lot of premium labor spend, and we need to start to reduce that. And are you looking at your premium labor spend regularly, and are you focused on that? Is that something that is now a priority? And are you modulating your practices and processes in order to start measuring that and then driving it down in appropriate ways?
Yeah, those are good ones too. I love that.
Awesome. So, Michael, we were talking about this. We've kind of come full circle, but this is your phrase, finding ways to live what we promise. And, we talked about that in the framework of having, stabilized recruitment, looking to that optimization. I just that it just really speaks to me. What does that mean to you? What does that phrase actually mean?
It's all about the team member experience, starting with the candidate experience. And so, um, exactly what we've been talking about. So, optimizing processes, fantastic, right? Optimizing our branding, important. Optimizing our reporting, incredibly important. But getting the right employees in our door is what we're really good at together, but focusing now on retention to ensuring that all that we told those candidates up front actually is what they experience when they're caring for our patients or supporting the care of our patients. And more than ever, the beauty of having recruitment optimized with some opportunities for improvement, because it is a journey, we are able to have more capacity to continue our focus around retention, culture, and the team member experience.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I think about living what we promise and talking about those employee value propositions. And it can't just be a slogan. It can't be something up on the wall. And we really have to live it on a day in, day out basis. And making sure that we have a rock solid, best in class talent acquisition function isn't the solve for all of those things, but it certainly can be part of the foundational principles in order to make that happen. So we've kind of come to the end of the prepared remarks, but I do want to ask one more question. I know that we have a couple audience questions. Michael, as you look at this list of some of our key results, what's the one that jumps out to you? And let me just hold there for a second.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, we have come out of the COVID crisis and our premium labor spend is so significantly reduced. And it isn't because, again, we're out of COVID and we're into our new normal. No, it's because we've put our heads together and found creative ways to hire staff and create exceptional candidate experiences so that people want to come work at Baptist. And of course, like everyone else on the line, we had a lot of travelers and agency staff to meet the demands of our patient care. And that's really behind us. And the result is, of course, improved patient experiences and quality of care. But from a business perspective, boy, our premium labor spend is in
Awesome.
it's such a good spot right now. So
Absolutely.
I love that. I love that one. I think it's something we all can relate to. And it's a lot of hard work. And it does take a partnership like this, I think, to result in where we are today.
Perfect. Perfect. And Mariah, I'm sure that there's some questions out there floating around. Do you have a couple for us with the time that we have left?
Absolutely, I do. We're going to start from the questions that came in first and work our way up. Hopefully we'll get to them all, or at least we will try. So the first question for you is, why are health systems reluctant to turn over physician recruitment to RPOs?
Yeah. Michael, you want to take a stab being in a healthcare system?
Oh, that's a good one. I don't know if we're reluctant, but that's a really interesting question when I think about my career over the years. I think for us, so much of physician recruitment is peer-to-peer, physician to physician. And although we have folks here at Baptist, for example, working behind the scenes to do some of the traditional recruitment work, I feel like so much more of the work is the physician to physician interactions throughout the recruitment process. And I think most systems, right or wrong, have kept it in-house because of the easy access, right, to our physicians who are involved in the recruitment process.
Yeah, I love that, and I'll just piggyback. And we do a lot of physician recruiting and provider recruiting for our partners, and there's probably a little bit of a misnomer that if you're really good at these positions, maybe you won't be as great on some of those other positions. And so I think it's just about educating and where do the core competencies of the RPO lie, and if they lie within some of those more executive level, more white glove, more courting type of relationships, that's probably worth the conversation ultimately. Right?
Great answer. Yeah, this next one is from Michael, and it asks, which KPIs are you using to measure your RPO partnership?
We have a number of KPIs or key performance indicators. And quite frankly, every year when we sit down and talk about the following year, either because it's a contractual year or it's just part of the process of going into a new year, we take a fresh look at those KPIs. And so those KPIs have been really all over the board. Today, there are many of the traditional KPIs around time to fill, candidate experience, satisfaction. When I talk about the sourcing ratio, one of the early feedback we had when we were more in the stabilization mode was that we were sending too many candidates to hiring managers for their review. And so I think the Hueman team has gotten really good at, and we track this consistently, is how many candidates are we putting in front of that hiring manager, and ensuring that we're making the best use of time, knowing how busy our especially our patient care hiring managers are. So that's a few examples of KPIs.
That's great. And I'll just piggyback on that and just say that, KPIs come in many different flavors throughout our partnerships. But I would say as a overall structure, there's a broad stroke, an umbrella approach where it's what are the goals annually for the partnership, and many times that goes down to how many people are we going to hire, how many offers are we going to have accepted in order to get there. And then you start to drill down into it. In order to hit this number, we need to have our recruiters, and they need to do these things. And it's things from presentations per week, it's jobs presented against, the number of interviews, what are their age jobs, how many hires are they making, how many offers are extended, and really starting to go down that tree down. And then I would say, for us, and it's probably more internal management, but just understanding activity. What is the activity level through the recruitment organization, and what activities are we doing, and are we doing enough of those activities to necessitate hitting those goals ultimately, and getting to where we want to be.
Great answers. Unfortunately, that looks like it's all the time we have for today. But I want to say thank you again to Derek and Michael for this excellent presentation, for their great answers to these Q&As, and also thank you to Hueman for sponsoring today's webinar. If you want to learn more about the content presented today, please check out the resource section on your webinar console and fill out our post-webinar survey. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope you have a wonderful afternoon.